Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, folks. It's the one and only Gorilla. Not from Manila, but we are the Chillers, the one and only Cowboy and the Monetary Monkey of Mayhem. We're here, roguenews.com. Follow us on X at Rogue News ESW, Rogue News ESW. We're everywhere you want us to be, plus a bag of chips. Every single podcasting app, and also check out a link from our sponsors, algofactory.tech, algofactory.tech. There's a free algorithm giveaway. Click the link in the description box and learn to trade like a hedge fund pro. algofactory.tech. And with that being said, Cowboy, good morning, buddy. How are you?
Doing good. How about yourself, sir?
I'm hanging in there, man. I'm hanging in there, just perusing the headlines, taking note of what can be done and where things are. And I'm making my observations. That's as best as I can do.
Monday's funky like that, right? You have this weekend. I mean, of course, the news never stops. It used to be when we were young. You got the news Monday through Friday, and that was about it. You got 60 Minutes Sunday night. Remember that 60 Minutes?
Yeah,
I used to watch that every week.
Yep.
But besides that, you get to kind of live quietly over the weekend, and now that's not happening. Now I imagine that our grandparents, if you will, at least I don't know, around the world, possibly at least the ones I had that were in America, they might have had to deal with kind of a heavier news cycle during the war and times like that. I don't know. But it seemed to me like as kids, things were just much more quiet in the world. But who knows? Could be due to technology. I don't know.
I don't know, man. I think I've been a news hound since I was a kid. I'm the kid that watch Meet the Press with Tim Russert on Sunday mornings. I've always been a news hound, and I've always been fascinated by the geostrategic and the geoeconomic. I mean, I'm 10 years old reading Tom Clancy novels, polishing them off by the bushel.
Nice.
My favorite program on Discovery Channel was Wings. Anything to do with, Wings was about aircraft, and anything to do with warfare and military, and I just sit there and study weapon systems all day. So based upon all these other things, I've noticed a massive uptick on global events. Where that old saying goes, there are weeks where nothing happens, and then there's weeks where decades happen. And we are there. We are there. And prior to, I mean, let's just say this, prior to the whole Epstein list, I thought everything's all hunky-dory. And now we see where things are. We see, here we are, 10 months. And how many months has it been since the administration took over? 9 months into the administration?
I would almost see, what is it, January, right? So, 10 months, 9 months.
So almost 10 months into this administration, we kind of starting to see a clear picture. And granted, we're only reading other people's mail, right, in terms of what's actually being discussed behind the scenes, what's talked about, what's in the boardrooms, and so on and so forth. And I must say that, there's a lot of things that I'm witnessing that I'm very concerned about. The whole Charlie Kirk thing, we all know it's a bunch of bullshit. We all know that it's not real. We know that, what's not real is the official story. Okay, that this kid was taken out by some sort of a state actor. It was a professional hit. Anything and everything the government says doesn't make any sort of sense. I no longer believe that there's some great grandiose, 5D checkerboard being played out right in front of us. I don't think anybody's coming to save us. I think there's even the current administration is playing to the ignorance and the stupidity of most Americans, and I'm sick of it. This whole meetings that they've had with the Russians, ever since, the Russians were looking forward to having Trump back on so they can have some meaningful negotiations. And I think just like as Reagan, when he was very vociferous in his first term, and in the second term where he faced the assassin's bullet and changed his entire tune, I think Trump has hit the wall. I think he has hit the wall in terms of what he can do as a quote-unquote United States president. I think that, we've always known he's been limited, but this is limited in a big, major way. as he's asking for peace, he's supplying Ukraine, which is stupid. And first it was the HIMARS rockets, then it was the ATACMS. Now it's discussions of Tomahawk cruise missiles. And look, Tomahawk is a piece of crap cruise missile, whatever, but it has the range where if they fire a barrage of it into Russia, if one or two were to hit some critical areas, it's going to be problematic. The Russians.
Well, there's an additional issue with the Tomahawks as well. Is Tomahawks can have a nuclear tip. So
exactly.
That's if a Tomahawk is fired off, the Russians may be forced to respond as if it had a nuclear tip.
Exactly correct. Thank you for saying that, Cowboy. That's another aspect to this thing that most people are not even considering or even thought about. And this goes for the intelligence jerk-offs and the armchair generals and the loser military class that's in the military incompetent complex that are always talking about this type of thing that they're gonna do a. And here's the thing: the rumor is that what's being brought to President Trump and his administration is a decapitation attack. Okay. And that's been often talked about, right? We've seen the decapitation attack occur with Iran. We've seen the decapitation attacks occur with Hamas, and they think that they're going to do, Zelensky's out there doing the Euro World Tour. Zelensky, a guy who, is in need of funds, is in need of capital, of a fresh new round of injections, is Zelensky, who has no more men left to throw at the front lines. I mean, he had 1.8 million dead Ukrainians and counting. You have 120,000 plus Russians that are dead and counting. But Zelensky's on the losing end of this, and the stupid administration is playing it towards the American public, saying that, hey, you know what? Let's talk about Tomahawks. Let's give him some Tomahawks. So you're trying to have these peace talks for basically, putting a narrative. Trump was like, oh, I brokered peace between Azerbaijan and Armenia. That war has been going on for 30 years. I made the guys sit together. I made them sit together, and now they have peace. They have peace now because they sit together. And now that they're together, there's no more problems. Give me my Nobel Prize. I want my Nobel Prize. So, the thing is, it's like a lot of narratives being put. We're going to give Tomahawk, we're going to give more weapons to NATO. But this time around, guys, we're different from the Biden administration because this time around, NATO is going to be buying it from us. That's a total lie. That's a complete lie. NATO is not buying it from us because who the hell is NATO? I've been saying it for years. We are NATO. We are NATO, right? Who's going to buy the broke, insolvent, decrepit, deindustrialized nations that make up NATO, or is it the U.S.? No, it's the same thing with Israel. Oh, Israel's buying our stuff. No, they're not. We're giving them the money to buy our own stuff. We're buying our own stuff. Why are we buying our own stuff? Right? We give them the money, then they go ahead and they buy our own stuff, our stuff. And then we say, oh, we're selling it to them. We're not selling it to them, right? We're basically buying our own weapon systems. Why? So that we can have the stock prices. Okay. Oh, God, this is so... Once you see this game, it's so sickening. So we can see the stock prices of these defense contractors go up. That's the only thing. And they want to go up higher. Well, the one thing we can do is we can start a very limited, a very small little war with the Russians. It's very possible. It's very possible. How about that? This way, you got to understand the lunatic, the stupid people that are making up American think tanks, the very low IQ, near-do-well midwits, right, who make up the American think tanks and the defense contractors and the very stupid, not serious country that we are. And they literally think that they can do a decapitation attack on Russia, hit the Kremlin directly, and everything's going to be fine. That Putin's not going to respond. All for what? So we can pump some defense contracting stock. How so? Just like the faction that was in power before wanted to pump up the big pharma stuff. That's right. Operation Warp Speed. It's the greatest. It was the greatest feat in human history. Operation Warp Speed. And we see with Operation Warp Speed, what is that? It pumped companies like Moderna. Never made a damn thing in its life. Never created nothing. Had no product line, no SKUs, nothing. The convenient pandemic started, and all of a sudden they're worth billions overnight, hundreds of billions of dollars.
I don't want to go too far down the pandemic rabbit hole.
No, I'm not going to. But I'm as a contrast. So if they did all that to pump some big pharma shares, what are they? Maybe we can control the outcome of a war, just like we can control the outcome of a pandemic.
Well,
It'd be spectacular.
It's said that the original plan for the pandemic was to have people locked down for 5 years.
Yeah.
So, Trump pushed for the jab so that they could get out of that issue and not be sitting there for 5 years while they restructured and did their great reset.
Who knows? Who knows?
So
it's all factions, right?
The question
the fact of the matter is which faction has our interest at play, right?
I don't think any of them do.
Any of them do, exactly.
No, the only time that our interests are at play is if our interests are their interests, and I think there's a case to be made for that. But it comes down to two factions. One of them wants to kill you, and then the other one wants to use you. I mean, you got to choose between what is it from the South Park episode? During the election, it's going to be a shit sandwich or like a turd taco or something. I forget.
A turd taco or a shit sandwich. It's aliens versus Predator, right? No matter who wins, we lose, right? Vampires versus werewolves.
You just
now here's the thing. Here's the real thing, right? I bring that up as like every time we send aid to Ukraine, defense stocks go up every single time. And now I think we have people that are in the halls of power that think, well, Putin really didn't respond when we brought in the HIMARS. And Putin didn't respond when we brought in ATACMS. Maybe he won't respond when we bring in Tomahawks. And then our defense contractors will do good. And after all, we're selling weapons we're selling weapons. Ukraine is broke. How are they buying it? We're giving them money so they can buy our own stuff. It's the dumbest shit in the world, right? The Russians don't play like this. And they understand, like what you said earlier, a Tomahawk could potentially have a nuclear tip. And who is not to say that some bad actor somewhere, right? Maybe it's Germany, maybe it's France, maybe it's the nut jobs in the UK. But like, hey, you know what? Here's a tactical nuke. Why don't you strap that onto a Tomahawk and send it over? The potentiality is there. Like the potentiality was there during the Cold War, where I remember one time the story of those Russian air defenses, and it read the incoming. Something went wrong with the system, and it started to spoof that incoming missiles were on its way from the United States, and something about that officer who was in charge of the response, he held back. He didn't hit that button, and thank God he didn't. Right? Otherwise, we would not be here right now. And so that's how close the world was to oblivion. And now we have idiots in D.C. who are playing chicken. And they literally, and it's a one thing if we're in a rational country filled with rational people at levels of power. We have people there that have been there 20, 30, 40, 50 plus years. And all they've been doing is believing their own bullshit, their own invincibility. They see the world as if it's still 1990 or 1991. They still think this is the early 90s. And Russia is a country, is a gas station masquerading as a country. And China is just filled with a bunch of peasants who work in rice paddies and sweatshops. They have no idea what the real world is like. They have no freaking clue because what? They're too busy. They're too busy as soon as they get into office. They're too busy running for re-election. They're too busy raising funds for re-election. They're too busy with insider stock trading so they can quadruple their net worth. They don't care about anything else. They're too inured with the grift. America, folks, is a marketing company running a Ponzi scheme masquerading as a country. That's what America is. It's a marketing firm running a Ponzi scheme masquerading as a country. The government of this country is basically at this point persona non grata. It doesn't even work. And we have dangerous idiots at very high levels making very, very stupid decisions. Here's an article from the Washington Post. U.S. considers Ukraine's request for long-range Tomahawk missiles because I'm Zelensky, and I know I don't have anybody here that is trained for Tomahawk, but I know that America will lend its peoples to give me the Tomahawk so I can fire directly into Moscow, probably kill Putin. Because there are assholes.
All I have to do is push the button with my penis and it will go.
Just like he plays the piano, right?
Exactly.
And then you got guys like Lindsey Graham, who literally believes that they can do a decapitation attack on Russia. They can do a regime change operation. It worked in Ukraine. They can do it in Moscow. It worked in Lithuania. It'll work in Moscow. It worked in Bulgaria. It'll work in Moscow. It worked in Romania. It'll work in Moscow. These people are deluded. It's not going to work in Moscow. It's not going to work with the Russians. Like, this is how crazy they are.
Well, they've been trying to do this for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
It's just that Europe has been obsessed with taking over Russia. Russia's got a lot of natural resources. I've heard it estimated by different guys. Alex Craner says like $75 trillion worth, which is, it's a massive place, a massive land, and vastly uninhabited. So they feel that they can take it over, break it up, and take the natural resources. And they've tried it over and over again and gotten their asses kicked every single time. And they think they can goad us into doing it. And dude, that's a terrible idea. What do you think of Trump's recent statement that he made regarding all of this that seems to have emboldened Europe? Did you see that post on his Truth Social?
Repeat. Bring it up, man.
I gotta find it because it came to mind. Basically, Trump says like Ukraine can win.
Crazy. Who's advising this guy?
But hold on a minute.
I have the best advisors.
Yeah, hold on.
You gotta believe me.
You want to hear the rest of this? So Ukraine can win, and then he says, and it'll be done with the help of their friends from Europe. And we'll sell them the weapons and they will do it, and NATO will do it. So look, this isn't 5D chess. It's just chess. And there's no place in there where Trump said America will do it. Right. And NATO is something where Trump has been also saying, hey, maybe Europe needs to step up and lead. I think America is tired of NATO. I don't think we're able to just simply pull out, but I think that the real risk that's coming is some kind of false flag attack, because all they've been doing is trying to get Russia to attack a NATO nation so NATO can invoke Article 5. So if there's a false flag and they can say it's the Russians, they can try to drag us into it like they've done every single conflict going back to World War I. So what was it? World War I was the Lusitania. World War II was Pearl Harbor. We know there's BS false flag.
World War I was Archduke Ferdinand.
Was it Ferdinand? When was Lusitania?
It was right about the same time.
Okay, so it's Ferdinand and Lusitania. I think Lusitania is what got us into the war. World War II is Pearl Harbor. I know the Japanese probably actually did the bombing, but that was a big setup too. What was it? Korea, was there one for Korea specifically? I know Vietnam was Gulf of Tonkin. And then there was the USS Liberty, when the Israelis actually blew that up and tried to say it was someone else and to get us involved in one of their conflicts. They're to Twin Towers, SS Cole for that matter. I'm not sure about that one, but the Twin Towers, we all know that was bullshit. So they're going to try to pull something. And the Hungarians reported in their media that Ukraine was going to use downed and repaired Russian UAVs and try to use those to send them into like Poland or Romania and do some damage there as like a false flag. And then they could try to invoke Article 5. So the danger is that, in my opinion, is that they're going to do that. And getting out of NATO is extremely difficult. NATO is like, they have people with salaries trying to justify their own existence. Like, there is no existence for NATO without the threat of war. They need a war to exist. So you have a lot of people with a lot of power who want a war to happen, even just for that reason alone. And the other thing about it is, like, you have to understand, Trump probably wants to do a lot of things, but he just simply can't, because they'll kill him and they'll kill his whole family. Like, Trump's not a dictator. I'm sorry to let you guys know that. I know everybody says he's a dictator, but he's not. Like, he doesn't have those kind of powers. So whatever he wants to do, he's also stuck with what he has to do. So, I mean, it's really easy to armchair quarterback being the most powerful man in the world when fucking excuse my language, Bibi at Netanyahu sends over a golden pager saying, I will fucking kill you. Like, so let's, it might be good to dial it back just a little bit and understand that Trump's probably at a point where he's corralled until something else can happen. And that's probably some kind of weird power broker stuff in the background that we'll never know about. And all we can do is pray, or something else. And I don't know what something else is that we can do, but I can tell you that there's been a massive ramp up in violence. How many shootings do we see over the weekend?
I lost count at this point, man.
It was like I don't know, nearly 10.
It was like, nearly like 10.
Not counting Chicago, which is, just a war zone. Yeah. But, all of that to say, like, everything is kind of coming to a boil. And I think the reason we're seeing all of this is because we're trying to separate from Europe, and we're trying even to separate. Might be trying to dislodge Netanyahu from Israel. I don't know that there's a way to separate from Israel at this point very easily. But whatever we're trying to do is just, dude, we can't just move, we can't move the pieces on the chessboard without other ones moving first. You know what I mean? So, I'm not as black-pilled as you are, but what I do understand is that, there's limitations, and people are doing the best they can. I don't want to give them too hard of a time.
And I think the American system, the system that's been hijacked, our government that hijacked this country, has a way of pigeonholing and containing a president, a wayward president. We've seen that in Trump's first term, where he was literally fought tooth and nail until he was literally kicked out of office, and what they did with that election of 2020. And now in the second term, I think these assassinations, I mean, there are some people that have said that the whole thing that occurred with Kirk was also a message to Trump. So that, the golden pager, all this other stuff that's occurring, it's like, dude, it's like what Nixon said. I'm out, I'm resigning, otherwise they're going to do me like they did Jack, which is JFK. So the system has a problem. The problem is most Americans are starting to wake up, but they're not putting two and two together as of yet. But soon they will be able to put two and two together and understand who the enemy is. And the enemy is not going to be the far leftists, and the enemy is not going to be Muslims. The enemy is not going to be Jews, or it's not going to be any of that. It's going to be a globalist cabal of Satanists who've been running this system ragged, who has brought us to 40, almost 40 trillion in debt. And when you count unfunded liabilities, is what now, Cowboy? Close to 300 trillion with unfunded liabilities, or 200 trillion?
Yeah, I think it's, I honestly don't, I think it's running up to 200 trillion. I think it's below that, but that's a lot. I mean, 200, trillion here, trillion there. Pretty soon you're talking about real money.
Yeah. And so the problem with the United States and the problem with Europe, in order for them to save face, in order for them to escape any sort of accountability, they would love nothing than to have a war, blame the downturn of their economies and their countries on the war, and this whole thing falls apart. That's the big issue here.
Yeah, I mean, you're a man of faith, right? Where does that take you?
My faith is not in a country, right? My faith is, I mean, one of the things that every major religion tells you, right, is that to put your trust and your faith into something greater and bigger than yourself, that is far outside of even the world and the reality that we live in. And the thing is, it's like we're never promised peace, security, prosperity, right? I think I've said it a billion times before. America is not excused from history. And in history, powers come and go. In history, there are violent uprisings. In history, there's bloodshed. In history, there's economic collapse and world wars and famines and pestilence. That's human history. We're not absolved from that. You know, so my faith is that God's given us all brains and given us instincts in order to read the tea leaves. And I don't, and for some people, it's going to be either, moving a location. Maybe you want to get out of the big city, get out into the countryside. For others, it could be just leaving the country as a whole. For others, it's going to be staying put because they're going to make the best do of what's ahead. But everybody's preps are going to look different. Just like if you're going to the gym to work out, everybody's training program is going to look different based upon your specific goals, needs, and limitations. I think it's the same thing applies here. There's no guarantee. Like, we've had it so good for so long. We've been saved by two massive oceans. And that saved us a great deal of heartache and turmoil for many decades. The type of bloodshed we've seen running across the European continent, we've been absolved from that. But in the realm of hypersonics, where a Sarmat 2 could hit Manhattan in about 8 minutes, that ocean is not going to do us any well. When an Aquila-class submarine could beat every sonar buoy that we have in the Gulf Coast and pop up literally 40 miles off the coast of Miami and say, hey, how you guys doing? It's a Russian Aquila Class 2, best submarine in the world. And we have no idea. And heads rolled that day at the Navy. People were fired. How the hell did that submarine get through? It's just letting us know. Hey, whenever we want, we can reach out and touch you. It's a different world. And we have to tread carefully. We have to tread carefully because we're in the world of technological peers and rivals. Some of the technology that's being fielded by our rivals are far ahead of anything we have, and we have no counter to it. So that's why we should take very serious what is occurring, and not think, hey, you know what? We have competent people, and everything's going to work out okay. I don't know. A lot of people think there's, and God bless them. I respect anybody who thinks there's deeper strategies at play and whatnot. But we're 10 months in. Look, I said if we're 24 months into this administration and not a single real handcuff on a real person, on a real player, then it's all been for naught. But go ahead, Cowboy.
Well, actually, it's a couple things there. So as far as handcuffs, we got an indictment with Comey. We'll see how far that goes. I'm surprised that D.C. even allowed an indictment on Comey. Fine, he's got an indictment. It's not a conviction. Not throwing shade on anybody here, but it is what it is, right? So let's, I'm not holding my breath on that one, because I stopped holding my breath after, trust the plan, right? So that said, I do think that there are plans, and I think that there's an order of operations, right? And this is a Tom Luongo, who, in my opinion, Tom trusts the plan a little too much, but he makes a lot of sense when he says that there's an order of operations. You have to think of you have to think about like Trump 1.0, like you just said. He couldn't get anything done, and they kicked him out basically, and then they cheated and took the election. Well, this last election, he got the win. And anybody who says voting doesn't matter, I say to you, why is so much money put towards voting? Why is so many billions and billions, not just in campaign financing, which can be money laundering, but also like all the cheating that goes on and everything? If voting didn't matter, nobody would do any of that stuff. So voting matters. I don't know that it's going to help you, but it matters, right? Like what I mean to say by that is, I don't know that voting is going to change anything, but voting in and of itself, it makes a difference if you vote. All right. So in the election outcome, so all that bracketed aside, I think that part of that order of operations was that the power had to get behind Trump for him even to get in. And they did. Now, is that, I say the power, I just should say a power, because there are other powers. What does Velas like to say? Giants in the playground. We just got to get out of the way. These are elite battles. They'll kill you and your whole family if you try to do anything. Like these guys don't mess around, but it's an inter-elite conflict. And money, power, levers of power, all that stuff matters. And the fact that Trump has a power behind him means that he probably had to accept some power that he did not want in order to get shit done. Now, in the meantime, you have a lot going on in the finance world. You have basically the Eurodollar is now defunct. There are many of the Eurodollars left in the world, and many of them were made by not just Europe, but they're everywhere. Lots of people, and many of them us, made the Eurodollars. And for those of you who don't understand, those are dollars made outside of the system and not regulated. So there's an entire war chest out there that's tangled up in these, trusts that no one really knows, how big it is or anything like that. There are a lot of moves being made in the background that go along with those kinds of things, like cutting off free money printing for Europe, right? So, maneuvering in the Middle East. Trump did say very overtly in one sentence, I will not let Netanyahu take over Gaza. He met with all of the Persian Gulf leaders, not Persian Gulf, the Arab state leaders, without Netanyahu on the sideline of the UN to talk about how this is going to go. And actually, Joaquin Flores made a point about that this morning, in that this is an OPEC thing. So letting the Arab states kind of take over what goes on in Gaza, or trying to set it up, that's a way to kind of keep the dollar relevant. That's his theory. Because the dollar's still relevant. Yes, we've been de-dollarizing for decades, and it's going to happen more. But at some, the dollar's still used very widely, and making a deal with them may be a way to keep it semi-relevant for a little bit longer. So there's a lot going on that, and no offense, V, but going 100 completely % black pill, you're going to ignore things that are happening, that are moving pieces around, that might actually allow something to get done, right? And going 100% black pill without considering those kinds of things is just going to make you miserable, man. Which is going to make you miserable.
I'm not 100% black pill. What I'm trying to say is that people need to wake up and start taking charge of their government, start taking charge, start asking real questions. Because the thing is this, I don't think there's any sort of 3D chess being played here. I don't see it. I try to see it, but I don't. And I think we're seeing reactionary moves as if it's some sort of a strategic thing. And also, I also admit, we're all reading someone else's mail here. And the fact of the matter remains is, what's going to transpire in the next 10 or 24 months? I don't know. But when I see stuff like this, where things are escalating, where things are at a hair trigger, and the Russians are very clear. These are people that don't mince words. They know that look, we're at war with NATO, and any strike on us will result in a strike on a NATO country. They're very serious when they say that. So this whole thing with the tomahawks, where's it going to go? Here's what it says. The United States is considering granting Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky requests for Tomahawk cruise missiles and allowing Kiev to strike deep into Russia. President Donald Trump's special envoy for Ukraine and Russia confirmed over the weekend. Trump is surrounded by cronies and people who are just giving him wrong information. Wrong information.
Tomahawk, you mean add that to the screen, bud?
Oh, sure. Yeah, there you go. Tomahawk cruise missiles, which have a range about 1,500 miles, would be a major improvement in Ukraine's arsenal and its ability to hit deep inside Russia, including Moscow, something the previous U.S. administration was reluctant to do. In an interview with Fox News on Sunday, retired General Keith Kellogg, who is a colossal idiot, this guy would be in China or in Russia, a man with the intellect of a Keith Kellogg, with the aptitude of a Keith Kellogg, will be a janitor at a mess hall, but he's a general. Said Trump has authorized Ukraine to carry out long-range strikes with U.S.-made weapons, adding that there are no such things as sanctuaries. What's that? There's no such thing as sanctuaries. In other words, anywhere in Russia where those tomahawks could hit, it'll hit. This is where I think that they have the opportunity to challenge Russia much more aggressively. This guy's a fucking idiot. At the news conference Monday, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Russia was carefully analyzing the very serious statements made over the weekend, trying to understand who would launch the missiles and how the targets would be set. We know the Ukrainians there's no Ukrainian military anymore. They've been wiped out. So who the fuck is fighting in Ukraine? They're all mercs, man. They're all mercs. American mercs. You got retarded American kids there. You have soy boy Europeans there, right?
Or Colombians.
That's what you have. Huh?
Colombians are there.
Yeah, Colombians are there. The Mexican cartels are there just for, they want to get the practice so they can.
They get their training, yeah.
Yeah, they're getting their training. So, if the United States collapses, they'll take Texas or Arizona or half of it. Even if this happens, there's no panacea that can change the situation on the front lines for Kiev regime. And Trump's out there saying, "Oh, we're going to be selling weapons. They're going to be buying." Lies. Oh, if we hit them, the Russians, we don't know why the Russians keep fighting. We want peace. They're making very little gains. This is what JD Vance, the fucking Planeteer eyeshadow wearing bastard is out there saying. Planeteer. Yeah, the Planeteer, the Planeteer drag queen, right, with his eyeshadow. He's out there saying that, oh yeah, it's the Russians are making very little gains. We don't know why they just want peace. They're going to have peace. It's going to be on their terms. They're winning. They're winning overwhelmingly, and they got a large swath of Ukrainian territory. That's a fact, Jack.
Well, I think Russia's not going to stop until it's all gone.
And the U.S., the marketing company running a Ponzi scheme masquerading as a country, which is the United States, they're going to dictate to the 1,000-year Russian state what terms are. Nobody's going to dictate to the Russian military. Like, are you fucking nuts? No one's going to beat the Russians in war. They ain't going to beat the Russians in war. Never. Even if this happens, there's no panacea that can change the situation in the front lines for the Kiev regime. There's no magic weapon, whether it's a Tomahawk or cruise missiles. They will not be able to change the dynamics. So let me get this straight. So in 2014, we had the Maidan, where we instituted a coup, spent $2.5 billion instituting a coup. We had the mad cookie woman of the Maidan, the dumb bitch, Victoria Nuland, who's out there passing out cookies, the idiot freaking piece of crap, right? Passing out cookies to the Maidanites, right? Instituting an overthrow for what? For the express purpose of harming Russia. Okay, that's 2014. And then from 2014 onward, we've seen the repeated attacks and shelling and assaults and aggression on the Russian population that have been living in eastern Ukraine, in the Donbass, the Donetsk, and Zaporozhye region of Ukraine, right? We've seen that. And finally, in December of 2022 or February of 2022, the Russians go directly into war, right? In order to intercept a massive pileup of Ukrainian military that was on the border of Donetsk to go in there and create whatever slaughter. And the Russians basically stopped wholesale slaughter from occurring. And here we are, fast forward. The Russians have been cooking the Europeans alive. Okay, including our own stockpiles of weapons. We're depleted in a great way because we're not an industrial country. So any country that can't make toilet paper during COVID is not a real country, my man. Okay? I'll leave it at that. Now, Ukraine already carries out long-range attacks with its fleet of drones, particularly against oil infrastructure. But Tomahawks would be a major military upgrade. Under President Joe Biden, the United States reluctantly allowed the use of Attacker missiles inside Russia within a range of just 190 miles. Vice President J.D. Vance, the Planeteer Patsy, also interviewed on this Sunday, both on Fox News and I think also another news venue. He said that Trump has not made the final decision on the sale of the Tomahawks, right, to the European countries, which would then send them to Ukraine. Frustrated by gridlock on the Russian side, the Kremlin refusing to sit down for a bilateral or trilateral peace talks brokered by Trump, Vance said to the Russians had to wake up and accept reality. Man, if I don't smack the eyeshadow off your face, bro, I mean, seriously. A lot of people are dying, Vance said. Yeah, a lot of Ukrainians dying. They don't have much to show for it. They have a lot to show for it. How many more? And again, this is all lies by Vance, hoping that the American public who can't find Ukraine on a map is continuing to be ignorant and or stupid towards it completely. I have no idea. Why? Because the game is on Sunday, bro. How many more people are willing to kill for very little, if any, military advantage? Are you kidding me? The most dumbest, ignorant shit the Planeteer Patsy, right? He probably has a dildo that says Peter Thiel on it shoved up his rear end as he's doing his interview. Peter, I'm the gay Christian guy bringing about the kingdom of the Antichrist, Planeteer. The sale of the Tomahawks would mark an abrupt reversal in how Trump has viewed the battlefield situation in Ukraine, even as Russia has been accused of increasing provocations against NATO countries. Last week, Trump appeared to have a change of heart on the war, saying that he believed Ukraine is capable of winning back the land it has lost, and that Russia, which he called a paper tiger, should have stopped. The only paper here is us. We're a paper chicken. We're not an eagle. We're a chicken.
We're a rubber chicken, sir.
We are a rubber chicken, dude. That's exactly what we are. And a banana republic. And a marketing firm running a Ponzi scheme masquerading as a country.
Well, nothing's going to get done until these people are defunded.
Completely. I mean,
which is what all that other...
the whole point I'm trying to make with this whole entire thing is there's no political situation or solution for any of the countries in the West. There's no political solution for any of the countries in the West. The more you beat your head on this, the more money you start to follow, the more people you start to really look into, the more departments and bureaucracies that are in existence, you start to realize there's no political solution for where we are. Either we collapse or something else.
No, either we collapse or we collapse.
No,
this
we
is
collapse.
What all the stuff I was trying to talk about earlier is leading to. Like, what did you say? And I know I've pointed this out before. What did you say a couple of years ago, or it was like a year ago, about how the U.S. is going to start to concentrate on its own hemisphere?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, because empires cannot afford to project power across the globe. It happens every time there's an empire. They try it and they run out of money. And that's what's happened to us. It happened to Britain, happened to France, all the ones before. So separating from Europe is like the only way we can do it. And I think that we can't really do jack until we separate from Europe and, quite frankly, from the Levant.
We need to get the hell out of Europe and get the hell out of Levant. The situation in the Levant, I mean, this guy Netanyahu has just made it so much worse. We're seeing the emergence of an Arab NATO. Look at the pact that the Pakistanis and the Saudis have signed. That an attack on one will be an attack on the other, right? And so more. How much more? So it's only a matter of time before Qatar joins that. It's only a matter of time before Bahrain and Kuwait joins that, and Iraq joins that, and possibly even Iran join that, right?
But this is why I'm not black-pilled, though. I think that's the kind of stuff that needs to be set up before Trump can do anything. Until the Levant is held down by, like, the rest of the world, basically, then there's nothing we can do to separate from them.
The Levant is a dangerous thing, and here's a dangerous thing. They have that not Samsung, but Samson option, right? And that is they're willing to nuke the world. They're willing to nuke the world
with their 80-year-old missiles.
Yeah, they don't care. It's 80-year-old missiles. The point is that these are delusional nut jobs. These are people that have been smelling their farts in these secret societies for so long that to them everything they do is perfect and smells like roses. These people are insane. It's like the U.S., the whole Obama pivot towards China, that came to an end. How did that come to an end? China put on a military parade that made every serious defense analyst in the United States saying, holy shit, we don't even have anything they have, and it will probably take us 2 generations to even catch up. Oh, let's pivot towards the back to the West, guys. We're back to the Western Hemisphere. Venezuela, you're selling drugs. You think we're going after the Golden Triad in Venezuela, and that's the big issue? No, Venezuela is sitting on the largest plot of oil there is, and that's the reason why. So we're gonna do that now.
No, that's all we can do, though. Our military tech is for beating up on smaller people.
That's all it is, man. All I see these podcast operators who are like, former SEAL, Delta Ranger, blah blah blah, Green Beret. Fuck off. All of you, fuck off. That's all I got to say to every single one of them. And fuck you for your service.
Well, every single one. Ian is a pretty good guy. He's Green Beret.
Well, Ian's a good guy. I'm not talking about guys like Ian who understand. I'm talking about the guys who are like sheep dipped, who are out there promoting this bullshit, right? That they're feeding the marketing machine. We're invincible. We can go ahead. We can kick anybody's ass anywhere in the world. No, we can't. We have problems in our own country. And the guys who are awake to this, who've been in this service, who've actually seen warfare, they don't want any of this crap. Guys like EM, right? But you got these podcast operators who are these young bucks who've never really seen combat, right? And they are out there just promoting the continued BS marketing. It's got to stop. We need to come to Jesus meeting. We need to come to reality meeting. We need to come to a real reality that, hey, you know what? We're not the biggest economy in the world because our every single one of our economic metrics or numbers are fake. John Williams from Shadow Stats. Go look at Shadow Stats. We stopped counting real economic production back in 1981 or 83. Everything since then is all fake. It's all fake. A graphics card company, NVIDIA, is worth $4 trillion. Oh, don't worry, guys. We have AI data centers. It's quantum computing is coming, guys. Yeah.
Well, we were just talking about Ellison and how.
Oh God. Exactly.
Look, Oracle and these other companies, like their stock grew by massive percentages based on like just saying that they're going to have a deal, based on signing a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And this is for data centers that we don't have the capacity to power.
No. For and imaginary graphics cards that are never going to be delivered. Don't worry, we're going to develop this data center using energy from a volcano. Yes.
No, back to the special ops guys. Like there's one in particular. I don't want to say his name, but his comment was that we don't even have the ability to field a healthy battalion. Like,
yeah, he's probably the ones who's well grounded in reality. And then you got these other shit for brains who think that because they knocked off a goat herder in northern Iraq, that they can go up against China, they can go up against Russia. These people are insane.
No.
They're insane.
No. Well, China, and not to get too far into that whole thing, but China's been, from what I could see, just more focused on defending their lands,
their regional power.
Yeah,
smart move.
And I think that's what it's going to be for all of us. I think that what they're trying to do with us here is break up our country. Martin Armstrong seems to think that they're going to be able to. I mean, they might, but I mean, there are times when I'm like, that might not be such a bad thing. But remember, if that does happen, it's probably going to be economically extremely painful. There'll be shortages. Some say if it's a violence thing, have 90 days of food. Some say a couple of years of food because of the shortages. Like the shit will get really expensive, nutritional deficiencies, things like that. But that's what they want. That's why we have this sort of shitstorm happening here in our own country, because we can't do anything to the rest of the world anymore. We just don't have the power to do it. I don't even know if we have the ability to deal with Venezuela.
No, we don't.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
We absolutely don't.
Actually, Silver's 47.3. Yeah, he said 30. So it's just typo. But yeah, so
listen to this. Listen to Gabrielis Landesbergis. Okay, he's the foreign minister of Lithuania. This is the type of shit for brains we have in within the sphere of influence of the Western countries and NATO. This shit for brains says this. He said the use of tomahawks would help control Russia's escalation, which will reduce the chance of triggering World War III.
That's what you call doublespeak right there.
If
we throw gasoline on this fire,
it will reduce the chance of fire, cowboy.
Yeah. Just put out the fire with gasoline. It works every time.
You don't need to use water anymore, folks. Listen, if you have a fire, the way you want to prevent this fire from escalating and engulfing your entire home is to use gasoline. It will reduce the chance of the fire from spreading. This is the type of logic. This is Orwellian doublethink. But the public, the idiots out there who are not astute to this, that makes so much sense. Because you know how much of his political constituents. You think Landis got this talking point on his own? No. This was given to him by the Pentagon.
Well, they probably just put it out there and put his name on it.
Correct. He got this from the Pentagon. Let's talk about tomahawks, Landis said on the interview. Let's talk about Taurus. Oh, even more, the new German long-range missile.
It's probably the Ford Taurus would be a better weapon to use.
It probably would be. Put that on a slingshot.
Right.
The long-range missiles that can be used by Ukraine to hit targets deep within Russia. So it's not just the Russians who are telling us how far and how deep they're going into Europe and into Ukraine, but actually us in the West helping Ukrainians to set the tone. These people are idiots. Set what tone? You have 1.8 million dead Ukraine. The Ukrainian army no longer exists. There's no Ukrainian army. There's no Ukrainian navy. There's no Ukrainian air force. It doesn't exist anymore. All you have are paid mercenaries and involuntary conscripts who have no choice but to go fight on the front on the front lines, right? And going forward.
Yeah, Vela's the show model, by the way, the SHO.
Yeah, that's super high output. We got to help the Ukrainians at the top, and that's pretty much the end of the article. But if Trump sets forth, anybody wants a really good watch, there's a good watch right there, the Luminox. It's a tough watch. If you want a good watch, it's tough. Shameless plug. Anyway, if we send them tomahawks, we're talking peace with these idiots. We're not sitting down and having like day after day after day of diplomats meeting, and then coming out with a strategy for peace. We're not having that, right? What we're having is just Trump meets with Putin for a couple of hours. All right, I've met with Putin. He's a good guy. Now give me my Nobel Peace Prize. I need the Nobel Peace Prize because it's the greatest peace prize, and I deserve it. Azerbaijan and Armenia, made these guys. They were really mean guys. I made them sit together. Everything's fine. No, real peace process is with real diplomats. Oh, I forgot. We don't have real diplomats. Oops. So the Russians are like, this is a joke. You're wasting our time. It's going to be on our time and on our dime. It's going to be on our time clock, not what this fake paper chicken, rubber chicken is going to dictate to us. The way the U.S. talks to Russia is the same way that Conor McGregor talked to Khabib Nurmagomedov. And Khabib absolutely mauled him to death in the ring. It's the same thing. We have all this bravado. That's right. Believe their bullshit. But don't worry. It's the greatest. You're going to love it. It's the best. And I'll tell you right now, guys. This is where we are. Someone needs to, that's a good point. Nate Diaz wrecked him too. Absolutely good point, Gulag. Someone needs to give these idiots a reality check. The only guy that's been going, it's funny. I saw, one of my good friends, Nino Rodriguez. I need to get on Nino's show, Nino's Corner. Great guy. Love Nino. Nino had Colonel Douglas McGregor. And I'm trying to get Doug on. And Doug is one of the most astute guys out there. Doug, Scott Ritter, our boys, Christofu, and Alex from the Duran. Danny Haifong's a great guy. We've had so many serious individuals, right? Who have Larry Wilkerson, so many guys who have said, look, the situation on the ground is very dire. We're playing chicken here. We're playing with fire. This could really spin out of control. Guys with real fingers to the pulse, that have a finger to the pulse of the very industries that we talk about, who've been there, done that, and got the T-shirt twice. Those guys are concerned. But guys like us, who are just on the outside, reading other people's mail, coming up with whatever theory, I tend to trust those who've been there, done that, and got the T-shirt. And if Douglas McGregor is worried, and Larry Wilkinson is worried, and Scott Ritter is worried, and several other guys who've been there, done that, and got the T-shirt are worried that the level of stupidity that exists can set off an unwarranted and unwanted conflagration out of nowhere, that potential is real.
Well, and I think they're pushing for it so hard because we're bankrupting Europe. They're bankrupting themselves, really, but we're helping them. And we're already starting to fracture, if you will, away from Israel. And I think they're going to do everything they can to make this war happen to keep us from doing that.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
because if we break away from them completely, they won't be able to drag us in.
Yeah.
And if you think Israel got nothing to do with Ukraine, then you don't know much.
Exactly. And here's the thing. There's plenty of videos out there of who showed up and who's showing up, walking around Ukraine, buying up assets for pennies on the dollar.
Yep.
And it's our buddies from the Levant.
Yep.
Walking around with their braids and hats, scooping up property. Why? Because it's part of greater Israel. It's Israel 2.0 in Eastern Europe.
But it's a hell of a deal.
Look, this land was promised to me. It was promised to me 3,000 years ago. I have to take it. It's a hell of a deal. I have to take it. Oy vey. If I don't take it, who will? Here we are. Anyway, guys, is World War III imminent? Maybe.
That's what this is why, and I didn't collect my thoughts very well, but this is why I was talking about, all that financial stuff going on. That kind of stuff's got to happen first. And I think that's why the fever pitch is coming. And I think that's why they're trying to set off all the stuff here in the States. Again, back to EM, he's talking about they let the trannies have their fun, and the leftism, they could say whatever they wanted online and say a man is a woman, and all of the online and colleges backed them up. I mean, all of a sudden now we can say whatever we want to them. As a matter of fact, they're bringing in like people on X saying things where what were the Nazis called? National Socialists. They're trying to bring National Socialism, and there's a lot of like race baiting going on X. Like they're trying to push for chaos here in the States too. Yep. And this fever pitch, in my opinion, means that we're really close to cutting them away. It's just a question of how desperate will they get, and if they do something like a really bad false flag, will Trump and Russia and quietly China be able to continue to throw water on it? Because that is a feat in and of itself, is keeping this war from getting into a bigger war. And that's, I don't know what else to tell you. I don't know what we can do, but you better hope they can continue to do it. That's what I got to say.
Yeah. Very well said. Modama Rose. It's a toddler having a tantrum. Yep.
Yeah, tempest in a teapot, as my father would say.
Tempest in a teapot. A marketing company running a Ponzi scheme, masquerading as a government in a country. Yeah. Anyway, folks, we're at the end of the show. And with that being said,